good to have you on International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network. This is a show where we bring you news, events, and stories from across the world. Here we ensure that the real on-time news are packaged for the viewing pleasure of the people. And we'll be looking at some numbers of stories today, but I won't be doing this alone. I have here with me Anita Barry. Thank you for having me. The headlines. Coming from South Africa, leaders kick off BRICS summit with business forum. Still from South Africa, Muslim discovered oldest Quran in Cape Town. And from Niger, African Union suspends Niger over to military coup. Thousands of militants stock due board disclosed on Zimbabwe. Voters had to poll with inflation on their mind. On bilateral relations, Ramaphosa ex-Jampeng strengthened ties ahead of BRICS summits. These and many more stories we'll be looking at when we return from this short break. Stay with us.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
human trafficking.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought a very family.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong
to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now the details. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Yangtou, and Russian delegations opened this year BRICS summit with a business forum on Tuesday. The Russian president reiterated his promises to deliver grain to 6 African countries free of charge in a pre-recorded video, and emphasized that Russia would only return to the Black Sea grain deal if all obligations are met. Russia has been saying for months and conditions for the deal's extension and have not been fulfilled. It refused to further extend this so-called deal after July 18, and we will be ready to return to it, but only if all obligations to the Russian side are actually fulfilled. I have repeatedly said that our country is able to replace Ukrainian grain both on commercial basis and as free of charge assistance to needy states, especially as we again expect an excellent harvest this year, announced Vladimir Putin. Putin said in July that he wanted an end to the sanctions on the Russian's agricultural ban.
Neatly handwritten more than 200 years ago by an Indonesian imam who had been banished to the southern tip of Africa by Dutch colonizers, is the pride of Cape Town Muslims who jealously guard it at the mosque in the city's historic Bokab district. Builders found it in a paper bag in the Awal Mosque attic while they were breaking it down as part of renovations in the mid-1980s. Researchers believe that Imam Abdullah ibn Qadi Abdul Salam, affectionately known as Tuan Guru or Master Teacher, wrote the Quran from memory at some point after he was shipped to Cape Town as a political prisoner from Tidore Island in Indonesia in 1780 as punishment for joining the resistance movement against Dutch colonizers. It was extremely dusty. It looked like no one had been in that attic for more than 100 years. Hazin Abdullah, a member of the mosque committee, tells journalists. The builders also found a box of religious texts written by Tuan Guru.
The African Union suspended Niger, the scene of a coup d'etat, since July 26, and told its members to avoid any action that might legitimize the junta. The continental organization from disengaged itself from the West African region bloc ECOWAS after expressing reservation about a possible military intervention to restore President Mohamed Bazoum, according to the press release. Meeting on Thursday 14, the AU Peace and Security Council decided to immediately suspend it and to participation of the Republic of Niger from all AU activities, its organs and institutions until the effective restoration of the constitutional order in the country. According to a press release on Tuesday, it called on the AU Commission to assess the economic, social, and security implication of such a deployment, while clearly stating its preference for the diplomatic route. A PSC supports the efforts of ECOWAS in its sustained commitment to the restoration of constitutional order through diplomatic means, and affirm its strong support for ECOWAS' tireless effort towards the peaceful restoration of constitutional order in Niger.
After 3 months of crossing the desert and then watching other migrants die at the sea in his failed attempt to reach Europe, Sahel John Yambasu gave up on getting across the Mediterranean and decided to go back home. A 29-year-old from Sierra Leone reached Niger in June on his return journey, but United Nations officials said he had to wait for packed migrant centers to empty before he could be repatriated. The mutineer soldiers toppled Niger's president a few weeks later, bringing regional tensions and the shuttering of the borders. Yambasu was trapped. He is one of nearly 7,000 discouraged migrants trying to get home elsewhere in Africa, that the UN estimates have been stranded in Niger since late July, when members of the presidential guard overthrew the country's democratically elected president, Mohamed Bazoum. Niger's junta closed its airspace and regional countries closed border crossings as part of economic and travel sanctions, making it hard for people to leave.
Zimbabweans are going to the poll in presidential and preliminary election after a campaign dominated by the country's soaring inflation. The day has been declared a public holiday to allow the 6.62 million registered voters a chance to vote. President Emerson Mnangagwa faced 10 challengers, including Nelson Chamisa of a main opposition Citizens Coalition for Change. A presidential candidate needs more than 50% of the votes to win. If there is an outright victor, a presidential runoff will be held in 6 weeks on 2nd October. It is phased election since the death of Robert Mugabe, the man who dominated Zimbabwean politics and the ruling NAZO-PS party for decades. He died in 2019, nearly 2 years after he was ousted in the military takeover and replaced by his deputy, Mr. Mnangagwa. Polling section will be open at 7 a.m. local time. Voters will also be casting ballots for local councillors. Ahead of the voting day, election officials will settle a polling session in the capital, harassing and removing political protesters, and were in a close proximity to comply with electoral laws.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping discussed improvements to their economic partnership and the conflict in Ukraine ahead of the BRICS summit starting Tuesday in Johannesburg. Xi Jinping arrived for a state visit in Pretoria as both countries pledged to strengthen economic ties on the sidelines of the summit. China is South Africa's largest trading partner, and South Africa is China's biggest trading partner in Africa. We've discussed the need to narrow the trade deficit between South Africa and China, and that one of the ways to do so is by ensuring greater market access for value-added South African goods that can be exported to the Chinese market, said President Ramaphosa. The leaders signed several agreements and memoranda of cooperation in various trade and economic sectors. The two countries have maintained close coordination and cooperation in international affairs, which has effectively promoted their respective development and revitalization and made positive contributions to safeguarding the common interests of developing countries.
The Central African Republic Constitutional Court on Monday validated the results of July constitutional referendum, affirming that the yes camp won by 95.3% against the no camp, which guaranteed 4.97%. The Constitutional Court therefore validates the new constitutions of July 30, 2023. It said the validated results showed that 57.23% took part in the election out of about 1.7 million registered voters. The new constitution raises the presidential term from the 5 to 7 years and scraps its 2-term limit, giving presidential first term Achen Torondra a green light to seek a third term in office. Torondra proposed to change to the constitution last year, arguing that the new constitution would help the country develop.
Three people have been killed in Russian artillery fire near the eastern Ukrainian city of Lima, Ukrainian authorities say. 2 people were also wounded in the strikes, which hit the villages of Tosk and Katin. The three who reportedly died, 2 women and a man aged 63 to 88, were sitting on a bench in Tusk when shelling hit, officials said. The area is close to the front line and regularly comes under attack. 3 people were killed and 1 wounded in Tusk. Another civilian was wounded in Kazakhstan. The head of Ukraine's Donetsk region, Pavlo Krylenko, said on Telegram, Tusk was attacked at 18:50 local time and Zatin was hit half an hour later, the Donetsk Regional Prosecutor's Office said on Facebook. 1 person in Tusk suffered injuries to their chest, shoulder and hip, the prosecutor's office said. A 26-year-old man suffered a fractured skull and a concussion in Zakhint. It added, as well, there have been reports of explosions in the port city of Sevastopol in Russian-occupied Crimea.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump has been implicated by one of the employees in a classified document case, according to the court's filing. Yosiel Tavares has IT director identified as Trump employee for illegal documents, changed his testimony after switching lawyers, saying prosecutors and now accuse Mr. Trump and 2 head of effort to delete security camera footage, saying the filing. The 77-year-old ex-president faced 40 charges in the case. Mr. Trump is one personnel at Wait Neuter and Lago maintenance workers, Carrios de Oliveras, have all pleaded not guilty. The former president is accused of mishandling the shortage of sensitive files at the Florida home Mar-a-Lago and trying to cover up the alleged crime by deleting security footage. The court document filed on Tuesday said Mr. Tavares changed lawyers after a special counsel, Jack Smith, who is overseeing the case, notifying him he was being investigated for perjury.
18 bodies have been found in a forested area of northern Greece hit by wildfires for the past 4 days, the Greek Fire Service says. Initial reports suggest that those who died may have been migrants. A coroner investigation team are heading to the scene near the Dadia Forest. The Evros region of northeastern Greece, not far from the Turkish border, have been ravaged by fires. A hospital in the city of Alexandroupolis had to be evacuated. Newborn babies and intensive care patients were among those moved to a ferry at the port. Fires are raging across several fronts in Greece, whipped up by high winds and temperatures which climbed above 40 Celsius in several places on Tuesday. Flames are thought to have spread rapidly since Monday in the large wooded Dadia National Park to the north of Alexandroupolis. Emergency services sent mobile text messages to the surrounding areas asking people to leave. Before the latest grim discovery, an initial death believed to have been of a migrant was reported in the area. 18 more bodies were found on Tuesday near a hut outside the village of Avantas, report said, when the fire brigade inspected the charred remains of a building.
The father of NFL star Caleb Ferry was killed in a massive explosion early on Tuesday at the player's North Carolina's home, officials said. First responders found the body of the Robert Ferry, 61, after searching through the debris of the multi-million-dollar house. The Tennessee Titan cornerback was not at home at the time of the explosion. The investigation is focusing on the property natural gas line. No fair play is suspected. Christian Roger, 25, a family friend who was also at the home, was taken to the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries, according to a statement released by the Riddell's County. A 6,300 square feet lakeside property in the Carrot suburb of Morrieville has reduced to rubble, and all vehicles parked outside the homes were destroyed. There is a lot of devastation. Darrell Coty, Director of Fire Service and Emergency Management, Coty Green, told the Tennessee, there is nothing left for this structure except the parallel wall. Mr. Ferry, 24, was spotted on the scene speaking to the authorities after the blast on Tuesday morning. Neighbors told local news outlet Queen City News that they had smelled gas and heard the explosion.
An airport in France will be renamed in honor of Queen Elizabeth II after receiving permission from the King, officials in the town have said. Le Touquet in northern France received the blessings from the King on Monday, its town hall said. Touquet Paris-Plague Airport will be Elizabeth II Le Touquet Paris-Plague International Airport. A town hall said a tribute to the great Queen would also recognize the most British of French resorts. A date for the inauguration has not been set. It comes after the original proposal was made to the British Crown 6 days after the death of the Queen on 8 September last year. Le Touquet explained he was also a nod to the late Queen's uncle Edward VIII, who visited the resort to enjoy horse riding and sand yachting, sometimes accompanied by his niece when she was not yet a queen. That King Charles III accepted the proposal of the mayor of Le Touquet further reinforces the strategy of the latter, who wants to reaffirm Le Touquet as the most British of French resorts, Le Touquet Town Hall added. The airport was designed in the 1930s to welcome Britons to the coastal town, about an hour drive from Calais. President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte also have a holiday home there. The town hopes its airport's new name will strengthen the link between the town and the UK and welcome tourist planes from across the channel.
Two tankers carrying oil products and liquefied natural gas collide in the Suez Canal, disrupting traffic through the global waterways. Egypt authorities says on Wednesday. The Suez Canal Authority said in a statement that the BW last month in Singapore flagging tank and carrying liquefied natural gas suffered a mechanical malfunctioning on Tuesday night and ran around while transmitting through the canal. The burial is Cayman Island flagged oil products tanker collided with the broken vessel. The collision disrupted traffic, the statement said. The two tankers were part of the convoy transmitting through from the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. We will immediately handle the broken down and traffic will go on to the normal in both directions within the coming hour, said Adam Osima Robi, the Land of the Canal Authority, in a statement.
A drone has hit a building in central Moscow that was under construction, Mayor Sergei Sobyanin has said. Air defenses also shot down two drones in the Mosaic and Kimki districts of the Moscow region, the defense ministry added. There are no reports of casualties and it is not clear who carried out the attack. Russian officials describe it as another attempt by the Kyiv region to carry out a terrorist attack. Ukraine does not usually comment on who is behind attacks inside Russian territory. All flights were suspended to and from Moscow's airports early on Wednesday, but were later turned back to operating normally. The flight suspension measures have been taken repeatedly in recent days. It was a sixth consecutive night of aerial attacks on Russia's capital region, AFP news agency reported. The drone that hit the building under construction at the Moscow City complex has been suppressed by electronic warfare systems, the defense ministry said. It lost control and collided with the building, it added.
Scorching weather hitting nearly 100 million people across a huge swath of the U.S. for school, and also workers who scrambled to adjust Tuesday and claim a life of a one-year-old girl left in a Nebraska daycare center van on one of the hottest days of the year. Officials and medics were called Monday afternoon to Kids of the Future daycare in Amara for the responsive baby inside the van. Police say temperature at the time reaches into the upper 90 degrees, part of the day-long heat wave. Washington was pronounced dead at the hospital. The baby at the hospital was pronounced dead at the hospital, police said. Court documents said her body temperature was 190 F. Her parents questioned why her absence at the daycare wasn't noticed. Prosecutors charged the 62-year-old van driver, Ray Williams, of Mora on Tuesday with a felony count of child negligence resulting in death, which carries a sentence of up to 4 years in prison. He told investigators that he was distracted by a young boy who didn't want to get out of the van when he was uploading the vehicles and mistakenly forgot the girl inside, according to court documents. A second staff member came out to help get the boy, and William closed up the van without conducting the sweep of the vehicle that said he was normally does.
A Mississippi police officer who took part in the arrest and jailing of a 10-year-old child who urinated in a park lot is no longer employed, and other officers will be disciplined over the incident, the city's police chief said. Senatobia Police Chief Richard Chandler announced the news in a Facebook post on Monday, but he didn't specify whether the officer who has left the department was fired or quit, or what type of discipline the other officers would face. Chandler didn't immediately reply to on Tuesday voicemail seeking further information about the changes. We appreciate the public's patience while we investigated this incident. We deeply value your trust and support, and we are dedicated to continually improving and learning from our mistakes. Chandler wrote in the Facebook post, noting that the officers violated their training on how to deal with children.
Thailand's divine former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra was transferred from prison to the hospital early Wednesday, less than a day after he returned from an extended exile and started serving an 8-year sentence. He had returned to Thailand after 15 years abroad on the same day as party linked to him won a preliminary vote to form a new government. Thaksin was then sent to prison to serve sentence from several criminal convictions made in an absentia that he has decried as political motivated. The prison report Thaksin has high blood pressure and low oxygen. He could not sleep and felt tightness in the chest, according to the statement from the Shiti Diovion, Deputy Director General of the Corrections Department. Doctors at the prison hospital said he should be transferred to prevent life-threatening risks, the statement said. Correction official previously has said Thaksin, 74, was considered vulnerable due to his age and chronic condition of his heart and lungs, high blood pressure, and back problem. This is International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network. We return after this break.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
Human trafficker.
Honorable They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds. I am in the
Welcome back. This is International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. In a tragic incident, a schoolgirl in Brazil died after she leaned out of a bus window and hit her hand on a concrete pole, New York Post reported. The incident happened in Enoa Fribago, near Ro and Jerigo, on August 16th when Fernanda Presico Ferraz, 13, was returning home from Professor Cario Cortez State College. Witnesses say that the girl put her head out of the bus window on the left side of the vehicle so she could wave to her friends. Unfortunately, at the same time, the bus driver swerved to avoid upcoming traffic along the road, and the girl had collided with a concrete pole. After her head hit the pole, shockers passengers on the board alerted the driver, who immediately stopped the vehicle. The bus driver then promptly informed the relevant authorities and the company's management team. However, the girl suffered a fatal head injury and was dead before first responders arrived at the scene.
A former London police officer was sentenced to 16 years in prison on Tuesday for raping a woman and teenage girl, the latest in a series of shocking cases that have damaged public trust in the capital's force. Adam Provan, 44, was sentenced to 16 years with a further 8 on a standing license for multiple rapes across 8 years against a 16-year-old girl and a female police officer. I am sure the public will be as shocked and revolted as Provan's offenses as we are here, Louisa Rolfe, Assistant Commissioner at the Metropolitan Police, said in a statement. He abused his position as a police officer to win the trust of both these women. His actions are utterly deplorable. The offenses were all committed while Provan was a serving officer.
Child guns death in the United States has hit a record high, according to a new study published by the American Academy of Pediatrics. Using the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's modality database, the study published on Monday in AAP's journal Pediatrics found that 4,752 children died from gun-related injuries in 2021. Latest last year, for which data was available, up from 4,368 in 2020 and 3,390 in 2019. Gun violence has been the #1 cause of death for children in the United States since 2020. The study was published at Tennessee lawmakers opened a special section on public safety after a Nashville school shooting earlier this year that killed 3 children and 3 teachers.
India was counting down to landing a spacecraft near the moon's south pole Wednesday, an uncharted territory that scientists believe could hold important reserves of frozen water and precious elements. A lander with a rover inside was upbeaten before attempting to touch down on the lunar surface, creating an agonizing wait for Indian space scientists in the southern city of Bengaluru, India, in making its second attempt in 4 years to join the United States, the Soviet Union, and China in achieving the landmark. India unexpectedly got into a race with Russia, which had planned to land its lunar 25th spacecraft in the same lunar region on Monday. But Luna 25 crashed into the moon after it spun into an uncontrolled orbit. It would have been the first successful Russian lunar landing after a gap of 47 years. Russia's head of state-controlled space cooperation, Roscosmos, attributed the failure to the lack of expertise due to the long break in lunar research that followed the last Soviet mission to the moon in 1976.
Safari Campbell, the beloved chef of former President Barack Obama, and his family died of accidental drowning in a Mata vineyard lake. Official confirmed Tuesday Campbell, 45, was paddleboarding at the aged town Great Pond on the night of July 23rd when he was seen struggling in the water, CBS Tony's report at the time. His cause of death was determined by the accidental drowning due to submersion in the body of the water, according to Timothy McCrew, a spokesperson for the Manchester Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. Campbell, who was from Dumfries, Virginia, worked in the White House, and the Obamas considered him part of his family. The former president and the First Lady said in a joint statement in July, when the Obamas were getting ready to leave the White House, they asked him to keep working for him. He's been part of our lives ever since, and our hearts are broken that he's gone, the Obamas said. Obamas have a resident of Martha's Vineyard, but they were not at the home at the time of Campbell's death. Massachusetts State Police said Campbell was visiting the area of the time of the incident. Searching spent hours looking for Campbell's the night he was reported missing, and his body was recovered from the following morning. The recovery was made approximately 1,000 feet from shore of the depth of about 8 feet.
A passenger bus veered off the main highway that connects Nepal's capital with the rest of the country Wednesday and crashed in a river, killing at least 8 people and injuring many more. Police said the bus drove off the Prithvi Highway near the town of Gajuri, 120 kilometers west of the capital, Kathmandu, and fell a few meters into the river. The bus was partly submerged in the Trishuli River, but rescuers were able to pull out many of the passengers alive from the wreckage. The injured passengers were taken to the hospital for treatment. The river had been swollen by continuous rainfall during the monsoon season. It was unclear what caused the crash, but the rainfall has made roads slippery and visibility low on the Kobe Mountain Highway.
As the U.S. Navy plane circled overhead to a Philippine boat's crash, race and Chinese Coast Guard blocks aired in a dangerous confrontation Tuesday in dispute South China Sea to deliver food and other supplies to Filipino force guarding an uncontested shore. Two Philippine Coast Guard vessels escalating the supply boat, however, were blocked by the last 4 Chinese Coast Guard ships for about 5 hours in a tense standoff off Second Thomas shore. The dangerous encounter is at least flare off from the long-sitting territory despite in the busy sea that involved China, the Philippine, Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan, and Brazil. Its regarded as an ASEAN flashpoint has become a delegate's float line in a U.S.-China rivalry.
Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen renewed her pledge to strengthen Taiwan's self-defense on Wednesday as she visited a war memorial from the last time Taiwan and China battled. Tsai visited the outlying islands of Kinmen, where the conflict was fought 65 years ago, commemorated those who died in the conflict. She was accompanied by Minister of Defense Chui Kui-cheng and the head of National Security Council Wellington Koo. In order to keep the peace, we need to strengthen ourselves, said Tsai. As such, we need to continue to reform the national defense, push for self-reliance, strengthen our defense capabilities and resilience. Taiwan's government on Monday revealed plans for the 2024 budget that had a 3.5% increase in the defense budget, a record of $668 billion, new Taiwan dollars. According to the semi-official Central News Agency, the proposed budget must be submitted to the legislature for approval.
All 8 people who were stuck in a cable car dangling hundreds of meters above arriving in Pakistan northwest for many hours has been seen rescued. In a slow and dangerous operation, a military helicopter rescued one child while Team Underground rescued the rest of the group after dark. They were helped to save along a zip line, which a huge crowd on top of the hillside celebrating their rescue. The group were on their way to school when one of the car's cables snapped. It was left hanging precariously across 274 miles above the ground and in a high wind. Pakistan's caretaker Prime Minister Answar Al Kaka said he has retrieved the tanks. All of those who were involved in the rescue. Pakistan Army said the rescue mission has been extremely difficult and dangerous. 6 children aged between 10 and 16-year-old were trapped along with 2 adults. One of the children, a teenager boy, had a heart condition and was unconscious for several hours. An adult on board named Gilfra told local media.
The Albanese government will appoint a task force to provide a rolling competition review in a bid to lower cost of living pressures by creating a more productive and dynamic economy. The task force set up in Treasury will include an expert panel including Daniel Wood, Chief Executive of Grafton Institute, and Rod Sims, former chair of Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. It will engage in targeted public consultation and provide continuous advice over the coming 2 years. A blood figure moves past the Woolworths logo. Woolworths posts a $1.62 billion profit will dramatically lift the margins despite cost of living crisis. A key focus of this competition review is to put downward pressure on the cost of living, the Treasurer Jim Chalmers told a media conference in Sydney on Wednesday. Some of the issues which were bedeviling the retail sector around shipping and other input costs have come off quite considerably in the last 6 or 9 months, he said, and we want to see those passed on to consumers, to Australians more broadly when that happens.
The African Union suspended Niger, the saying of a coup d'etat since July 26, and told its members to avoid any action that might legitimize the junta. The continental organization also disengaged itself from the West African regional bloc ECOWAS after experiencing reservation about a possible military intervention to restore President Mohamed Bazoum, according to the press release issued on Tuesday. Meeting on August 14th, and the AUPs and the Security Council decided to immediately suspend the participation of the Republic of Niger from all AU activities, its organs and institutions until the effective restoration of the constitutional order in the country. According to a press release on Tuesday, it called on the AU Commission to assess the economic, social, and security implication of such deployment while clearly stating the preference for diplomatic route. We know that the African Union has suspended Niger over the recent coup d'etat. This is coming as the result of the AU standpoint on the democratical system of government. According to all the African countries are supposed to be democratically represented as a result of what is happening in Niger. They have no option than to activate the aspect of manifest to now it's quite devastating. I don't know. For viewers now, do you think that this will grip Niger in a most devastating way and also cripple their economy? We know that they're not the only one that are actually into this military, that are governed by military. We have Mali, we have Burkina Faso too. But it's going to take time for them to start negotiating with other countries, negotiating with other nations to get back it might not be quite easy for them to stand on their own. But we don't know whether the decision of the AU will make them to draw back their decision on what they want to do, because already they are saying that they're going to hold the power for 3 years. But do you think that this decision by AU will make them to go back to the drawing table and decide to do the needful?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, because first of all, you ask yourself, what do you have to gain and what do you have to lose? Now, I think the AU is being too extreme in all of this. In conflict resolution, there is always a place for compromise. And so if the AU is not willing to compromise, if ECOWAS is not willing to compromise, and Niger is also not willing to compromise, then we might have a headlock. I mean, there's not going to be a headway out of it. Niger wants to have a transition in every 3 years. Now, ECOWAS is calling for democratic order. First of all, you ask yourself, how has the democratic order in Africa specifically been? How successful has it been? People keep crying every day in Africa. The people are impoverished. The leaders keep getting richer and keep getting better. The people keep getting poorer. And you expect us to continue to be in this state. I mean, I am not saying what the juntas have done is right, but I am saying that there should be a place of compromise. If you expect these juntas to do the right thing, you also do the right thing from your own end, lower than what you have done. Let's have what democracy ideally is, not the democracy as defined by Africans. Let's have the ideal concept of democracy in Africa. And then we'll also consider the years, the tenure. If they have said 3 years, because it's going to give people that liberty to say, okay, I mean, we have some countries in Africa where people have been in power for years and nobody's saying anything. We don't want to have that kind of autocratic rule everywhere. We have situations where people even impose themselves on citizens. We don't need all of that. Let's know that this is a transition government. After 3 years, you go. Some other person comes on board. But no, because African leaders, well, can best be described as being very selfish for themselves, for their families,
but
for
don't
their
you
allies,
think
they would not agree.
Don't you think if if they suspend Niger from AU, don't you think it will have a way of affecting? We are talking about the masses, not just the people in power. Now we are talking about the masses. It will take years. It will take a year or two for them to be able to balance. Remember, they said they're holding this power for 3 years before they can hand over. Would 3 years be enough for them to be able to negotiate with other countries to stabilize the economy? Don't you think this will have a way of affecting their economy? It will have a way of affecting almost everything in the country.
First of all, Nigeria cut off power supply from Niger. Are they in darkness? The answer is no. They found a way out of it. So if we think that there is anything too big, I mean, we have nations like Russia pledging support. We know very well some of the food items we consume in Nigeria are from Niger.
Russia is placing support, but remember that Putin is pleading with the military that they should hand over power to Bazoum. They should release Bazoum. They should do the needful.
Putin is not supporting the ECOWAS directive for them to go back to a constitutional. Putin wants the right thing. I mean, he wants these juntas to have their own way as well. So why we want a balanced system? You do your thing and we do our thing. So cutting them off, I think there are always other ways to do this stuff.
I'm still worried. I'm still worried about the citizens, because I'm also looking at the economy. Yes, we know that when something good wants to come, it will have a way of affecting some, and some will benefit from it. But in this case, we are talking about a whole country. I think why they put this, why they come up with this suspension, I'm not sure they really want to do it. Maybe just a way of making them
like
feel,
a threat?
Yeah, like a threat, so that they can actually do the needful.
If the threats for a military invasion did not weaken the juntas, you think this is going to weaken them? I would still say that ECOWAS, the AU, the Niger juntas should consider compromise. There are no hard and fast rules to these things. Now, you don't set a standard, put out your demands, and expect to have them 100%. Now, if they are going to compromise, these guys are going to compromise. They have agreed, okay, we are going to reinstate Bazoum, but these are the terms and conditions. ECOWAS should also come out and say, all right, this is what we initially wanted.
But again, they are doing the needful, if you ask me, because, well, I don't know. You know that this was a manifesto that any country or nation that is not going against the rule of this shall be cut off from all ties. Also, and that's what they are doing.
It is also in the laws establishing ECOWAS for military intervention. But you see, people had to come, I mean, maybe those who drafted those laws didn't consider some other things that we are really considering right now. And people are like, no. Using force, using military invasion will only worsen. I mean, two wrongs don't make it right.
Okay, let's hope that they will come together. They should go back to that drawing table, go back to the negotiation table.
On both parts.
Yes, they just have to be. We don't know who is doing the right thing now, but we just hope that everything will be stable in no time. This is the much we can take on today's show. Thank you so much, Anita.
Thank
for those deep explanations. My name is Immaculata Irikana. In case you miss out in any of these stories, don't worry. You can join us on our Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, Twitter at Atlantic TV Net, or you can watch us live on our website at atlanticnetwork.tv. Remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching and continue to stay connected on ATM socials. Till we come your way next time.